As you know, coming up in 15 days, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to begin hearing arguments on the claims of immunity by this orange son of a bitch. And those claims of immunity are based on Trump saying that the charges against him regarding the January 6th attack and attempt to destroy government, destroy democracy in this country, those charges should be thrown out because he was acting as president at the time. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's the same old thing. I've said this before. A guy kills his parents, goes before the judge, says, "Judge, please don't sentence me to prison because, after all, I'm an orphan." This is insane. Prosecutors in the case have called this defense, they denounced it as, quote, novel and sweeping, end quote. If the Supreme Court rules that Trump was acting within his presidential duties to try to overthrow the government of the United States, in other words, that he has immunity for everything this criminal son of a bitch did throughout his entire presidency, but specifically on that day, a day when he was still president, then it just means that presidents from this point on have carte blanche to do anything they want. They want to come out and throw your ass in jail. Oh, what? You say you didn't commit any crime? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If Trump decides you're a threat, he can have you jailed. If Trump decides that a demonstration in favor of voting rights is a threat to him, you just call out the National Guard, have everybody arrested, thrown in jail. That's how serious this is. And in light of that, more than a dozen retired four-star generals, admirals, and other former military leaders have filed an amicus brief with the Supreme Court regarding this hearing coming up in 2 weeks, 15 days. And this group of military officers, flag rank, are arguing that Trump's claims of immunity in his criminal cases are not only bullshit, but are an absolute existential threat to this republic. In their amicus brief, and you can find this online. All you have to do is type it in. In any search engine, retired admirals and generals amicus brief for April 25th Supreme Court hearing. It'll pop up the whole thing. And I did that a couple of days ago. Well, yesterday. I guess it just came up yesterday. But, I read through what this brief says, and Jesus Christ, if this is not one of the scariest things I've ever read as a citizen of this country over my entire life, I don't know what would possibly take its place as the scariest. It's this document. This group of admirals and generals, retired. They have to be retired. That's a tradition. If Trump is president, active duty admirals and generals who would suck up to him would be able to say anything they wanted to. But this group said Trump's claims, quote, would threaten the military's role in American society, our nation's constitutional order, and our national security, and would have a profoundly negative effect on military service members. What the fuck? Can that be more specific? Can there be more of a clear warning about what this grifting, insane son of a bitch Donald Trump will represent as a threat to this country if he gets the office again? It would threaten the military's role in American society, our nation's constitutional order, and our national security. What did they leave out? Oh, inflation. Oh, okay, they left that out. Now, the signatories on this amicus brief include former CIA Director Michael Hayden, retired Admiral Thad Allen, retired Generals George Casey, Carlton Fulford, Craig McKinley, Charles Krulak. Now, those names are all absolutely unknown to you and me, aren't they? Unless you're retired military or something, then you might know their names. But for the average American, like me, probably like you, the names don't mean shit. And they don't register. And that's because military officers, especially at this level, admirals and generals, they don't state publicly their political ideas. The whole constitutional order is chain of command where it concerns the military. The president decides, not the Congress. Well, the Congress can declare war, but with the different acts that have been passed by Congress, now a president can order fucking annihilation of a country. He has, 45 days, 60 days before he has to go to Congress and get a declaration? Yada, yada, yada. Screw all that. It simply is set up in this country that the president is the commander-in-chief and has the authority to order people to do things. And if the people to whom he issues these orders don't like it, they have one alternative: get the fuck out of the military. So the reason we have never heard of these generals, one of the reasons, is because around political issues, is because they are, by tradition, I don't think it's law, I don't know, but by tradition, they do not speak out on political issues. They ostensibly, they serve the best interests of the country as determined by civilian leadership, president, Congress, what have you. But the orders come from the commander-in-chief, the president. And this is what these generals and admirals are warning against. The brief adds this, quote, "The notion of such immunity, both as a general matter and also specifically in the context of the potential negation of election results, threatens to jeopardize our nation's security and international leadership, particularly," it goes on, "in times like the present, when anti-democratic authoritarian regimes are on the rise worldwide. Such a threat is intolerable and dangerous." This is what, end quote, this is what Trump represents to this country. And again, I'm not talking about you, gentle listener. I'm not talking about myself, because you and I understand this. But what in the perfect fuck is it going to take for people in this country in general? I mean, Trump getting an approval rating above the 20% of the crazy bastards in this society is beyond me. Anything above 20% is an indication to me that people are exhibiting willful ignorance of what we're facing, which is exactly what the people of Germany displayed in the 1930s. Exactly. It's what the people in any totalitarian country that may have started as a democracy, and then they watched the democracy evaporate, and all of a sudden, what happened? Gee, I was busy mowing the lawn. What the fuck happened? What? We don't have that guarantee anymore? What? The Constitution suspended? What? They're rounding up people in the streets? What? And by then it's too late, unless you want to pick up a fucking weapon and sign on to your neighborhood militia and start shooting or being shot at. In fact, both. The only time to prevent the rise of a dictator is before the son of a bitch gets power. And as long as we have a system available to us where our leaders are determined, well, they seem to be determined by votes, then we better fucking get out and vote and stop this, kill it in its cradle. I mean, we are so close to a fascist government run by this unconscionable, filthy, grifting prick named Donald Trump and the Nazi Jews and the Nazi Christians around him. Like this fucking Stephen Miller, the Nazi Jew, who came up with the idea of putting children in cages, taking them away from their parents. That is right out of the goddamn Himmler playbook. That's it. That's Dachau. That's Auschwitz. That's Treblinka. That's Sobibor. That's what this Nazi little Jew Stephen Miller is advocating. And that's just a beginning. My God, what is it going to take? The group also, this group of retired generals and admirals, and this to make a brief, they also wrote that if the court agrees with Trump's argument, that he's immune, hey, I'm a president, man, it will destroy the relationship between the commander-in-chief and the military, because the president would not have to follow law while the military still would. Do you think the military is going to tolerate that? They are asking, they are petitioning, they are filing an amicus brief with this totally fucked Supreme Court, asking them, in the name of everything you consider to be constitutional and right and decent and legal, stop this son of a bitch. Stop him.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.